Welcome back, friends. How are you? Hope you're having a wonderful day, and thank you so much for joining us. Today, somehow the same song keeps coming in my head, okay, by Mobb Deep. Shout out to Mobb Deep, okay? Because ain't no such thing as halfway crooks, scared to die, scared to look. That song comes into my mind during this time when tomorrow is actually the 50th anniversary of hip-hop music. Now, it's really very interesting how this story is coming during the time when things are closing up, okay? The reveal of certain crimes are coming to the surface, so to speak. It also goes back to something I said before. When you have children and you allow them to get away with things as children, when you laugh at things that you think are cute when they are children, some of those very things can grow to haunt you when you don't nip it in the bud when they are children. When you don't take care of the situation at hand, it can turn into an explosion when they become adults. Children learn from what they see. They observe their parents. What their parents do is the right thing in their eyes. Outside of that, even when you look beyond that, setting a good example, setting the tone, observation, they are observing what they're seeing, they're doing what they're seeing. So you have to be careful in what it is that you expose them to as well. You expose children to a certain group of people who you know are not correct. The children might look at them as a great leader. They might look at them as being, they might be fans of those people. Be careful who you hold up on a pedestal. You hold them so high that they have no place else to go but to fall to the ground. When we're looking at this song deals with a great deal of crimes. And our closing point, our balancer, whenever there's a crime that is committed and we find a resolve, we find out who did it and we correct it. Whether they spend time in jail, whether they do services, special services, volunteer work, that is the balancing of the whole act. You cannot commit crimes and not expect things to turn on you. See, in the community, there are a great deal of people who have been getting away with murder all this time. They've been finding themselves in little groups, clubs. Some people might even call it, gangs. Whatever the case, whatever the group, this needs to be resolved. Because if a group can get together and hurt people in the community, that means the community has to speak out. That means laws have to be corrected. That means that people have to be corrected on what it is that they did wrong. These crimes, these heinous crimes have gone on for years, where people are being thrown out of their homes. People are confiscating money. People are getting insurance on people and unaliving them. Again, there ain't no such thing as halfway crooks, scared to die, scared to look. You're afraid to die because of the actions that you committed. See, sometimes it's easier for you to do something to someone else and not worry about what it's going to look like when it comes back. But a lot of things come back to bite when you look at the situation and it's not corrected. You see, when laws have been broken, and you have children out here watching this whole thing too. You have a coven who is at a church, and they're using that religion to cover it up. But at the end of each day, if you're not evaluating your mistakes, if you're not looking at those very things and trying to make a correction when it's wrong, how is our community going to have to deal with that? How are our children going to have to deal with it? Because in a cult where children were actually pulled in and they were there to watch and observe, again, if it is not corrected, if those children don't get the psychological help that they need, what happens to those children? They become adults repeating the same mistakes. We have got to figure out a way in which societal problems are solved and cleared up so that the next generation does not have to have the same fate. We are coming into a point and perspective to where we have the 3D and the 5D separation. People who have been still looking at things as being not a big deal, and they are a very big deal. People stealing, people unearthing, all of these different things, a very heavy subject matter at hand. We as a society, we as people, we as being humane individuals, when you know something is wrong and you stand in and you allow it, are you a part of the problem or are you a part of the solution? We are looking at all these matters. And although a song can come to it, because I know you need to listen to that song that Mobb Deep put out, because that song is dealing with what we're going through right now in these small communities where people can just go to church and go behind closed doors, act as though they're having spiritual services, when it's good working against the evil. Okay? You got to be careful in what it is that you find yourself in being a part of, because if it's not committing an offense, or if it is committing an offense and not being corrected, what exactly is it that we're doing here? We need to figure out a way in which everyone is being held accountable for doing these heinous crimes. Children watching. Okay, again, the anniversary of hip-hop, August the 11th, a lot of people coming out to celebrate the moments of music. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. In high school was when I really got caught up in rap, because I really liked the fact that I could rebel through music, and sometimes being pushed and having to do so much work, whereas I never had my childhood. I'm working and taking care of other people's children and not having any time to myself to be a true teenager. What ended up happening is I ended up closing myself in with my music, listening to my rap songs, and that was what got it all out. Okay? Not all of it, but that's what allowed me to get through those moments. Without music, I don't know what I would have done. Music is what has helped me through even my childhood. Diana Ross is The Wiz, Stephanie Mills, The Wiz. That helped me get through a great deal, because that music, showing certain emotions, allowing it to be free through your soul and system, all these things play part. Just like the Mobb Deep song is a rebellious stage that I went through with that rap music, with the hip-hop. But even still, even with that, getting it out of my system allowed me a certain clearance. Some of the children today use their phones, and they're not having a conversation with the parents. They're not having a conversation with their friends. They're having a conversation with the texting. That's the type of conversation. How are you able to express yourself through that version? You don't see the emotions in those the text messaging, or at least you don't see it visually through the person's emotions, through body language, through looking at that person eye to eye. All of these things are playing part in the breakdown of our communities. If we are not able to be able to express ourselves and get it out of our systems, we are going to be facing an even bigger challenge later on. And that is the reason why all this is coming to the platform. Me putting this here, the balancing, the karma that comes between the whole situation. You have a lot of people who've committed a crime, the crime of putting people out of their homes and stealing property, stealing insurance money. They even have certain people who they have continue to lie and tell that these people are no longer here. These people are roaming the earth just like you and I. And you have insurance on them, and you've actually accepted money, a claim stating that the person is no longer here, and the person's roaming around. This is what's happening. The karma that you're going to receive behind that. Do you not believe in karma? Do you not believe that the crimes that you commit, your children are not going to be able to benefit in this case as well? Because whatever the sins of the father, whatever he does, spirals down to the children if it is not corrected. If he's not here to deal with the crime, to have to pay it, the children are going to have to pay it. And depending on who you made to deal with, that even becomes a whole nother situation. It is high time that we step up and work on healing ourselves. That was the whole point in a dark night of the soul. If you're able to go through it, and trust me, I know it is not an easy feat. I've been through it. When you have to go through correcting your mistakes and helping to correct the mistakes of the ancestral problems, when you break it all down, everyone is going to have to do a certain amount of suffering to clear it up. Once it's cleared up, now it becomes a little easier. The point is to clear it up, to help other people, not to just help yourself. The money is going to have to go back to the individuals who it was stolen from. Property is going to have to go back to the people who it was stolen from. And you're going to have to repent. Talk to God, ask for forgiveness, because what you did was wrong. And you have to admit it. And whether you choose to admit it or not, the court of law is going to show and balance it all out in the end. So again, ain't no such thing as halfway crooks. Scared to die, scared to look. You're going to be afraid to deal with the crime at hand once it comes to the surface. It not only embarrasses you, but it embarrasses your family. You know, people were saying they didn't like certain things that I said. Well, I'm only going by what was done. And if it was done to me, if it was done to, I mean, there's so many things. I didn't even talk about the car accident. People trying to get people to forget, lose their memory or do dark magic so the person does not remember. 2 people driving in a car. They put their seatbelt on and took the child and put the child in the lap of the passenger. Drove really fast, stepped on the brakes. Who fell through the windshield? A whole lot's going on out here. People not willing to go ahead and admit to your wrongs. If you knew you weren't the father, you didn't have to sign any paperwork. You should have just said, I don't want the responsibility. I don't want to be the parent of this child. Period. They would have had no choice but to deal with the circumstances at hand. Because you can't have your cake and eat it too, nice and smooth. Because the ideas of 2 loves just won't do, girl. So, here it is. Whatever the situation is at hand, we're trying to clear up the problem so that we can move forward and live a cleaner lifestyle. Okay? That's been my word, Indigo Moon, and checking out. Thank you for joining us today.